and welcome inside episode 99 of Breaking Bats, presented by Not For Long Media. My name is Justin Ayers, and I'm joined once again by the man himself, Ryan Ripken. Ryan, this is the last new episode of 2023. Next week is the best of, but it's a big deal. We've done a lot of stuff this year. It's been a big year for the pod. Thanks as always for coming on. How are you?
I'm good. I mean, where the hell did 2023 go, by the way? Right? I honestly felt like I was trying to set New Year's resolutions, you know, last month. And no, really, it was in about, 2 weeks from now, essentially. It's even less than that now, right? It's like December 19th. Wow. The year's closing. It's been a fun year, though, right? A lot of great things. And it's always been fun to work with you, Justin. So, can never complain about. Well, I can complain about other stuff with you, but not on the pod.
If we're getting close to the time where like we're gonna see that like countdown to like pitchers and catchers. One of my favorite websites, Baseball Savant, has this counter on their homepage, and we're taping this on Tuesday, and there's 65 days until spring training games. So
65. Woo,
yeah, that's it. We're almost
man,
there.
it's nuts. And honestly, as a player, once the new year hit, everything felt like it just was there in a second. So that was. I just saw some of my former teammates, and they're gearing up for spring training right now. And they reminded me. I go, "Hey, you excited about the season?" They go, "Oh yeah, but I know once January one hits, the off season is going to come and go just like that." So, but as a baseball fan, you kidding me? We need it back, Justin. We need it back.
It's kind of a lull in like the free agency market, which we'll talk about, but there's just like I don't know, there hasn't been that much news trickling out. Like I feel like we had a little bit. We had the winter meetings, had a couple things. The Otani thing, I feel like is still populating a lot of baseball news right now. It's just like reactions and all that. But yeah, I wanted some more action, but we have a couple things to talk about this week. And we also have an interview with one of your pals, Gavin Sheets, which we'll also talk about at the end there. Um, big episode. We're gonna close 23 off right. But before we get to all of that, really quick, two quick apparel sponsors, two quick shout outs. Zero Negative. It's a brand out to inspire and empower individuals to find a positive message in everything they do every time they promote positivity and mindfulness and everything they do. Check them out, zeronegative.com. And last but not least, the GOAT Fuel Will Hunt. It's one of my favorite brands out there. They're out of Philadelphia. One of my favorite workout shirts of all time. Check them out, fuelhunt.com. You will not regret it. All right. So in Birdland, I wanted to start in Birdland because we did have some news. The state of Maryland and the Orioles have agreed to a new lease, 15 more years at Oriole Park at least. But if they can agree to develop some land around it within 4 years, that could be pushed up to 30. Ryan, I don't think anybody in Birdland thought that we wouldn't get this deal done. It's nice to have it. My question for you, though, is there's some, like wish lists and like development plans floating around. What should be at the top of the wish list for redevelopment and stuff coming to Oriole Park for you?
You know what? I've been thinking about that. First off, yeah, I never thought the Orioles were leaving Baltimore, right? And we've talked about this, Justin, both on the pod, privately. Camden Yards was the stadium that set the standard for future stadiums, right? First and foremost, MLB loves the Orioles in Baltimore. And quite frankly, if you want to go back, the Baltimore Orioles really are deep rooted in the community because when you think about it, the Baltimore Colts at the time, the football team left in the middle of the night, and that really stung Baltimore fans. And so the Orioles is kind of like, I'm not going to say it's their baby, but it's the one team where it's extremely, extremely deep rooted. And to see it all done is great. Now, as far as the development goes, I don't really know exactly. And maybe this is why this contingency plan over the next 15 years, right? It's 15 years. And if the Orioles are happy with where the deal's going with the state, then they'll opt in for the 30 years. I think just the development wise, personally, I just think it's just about an overall experience. I don't want it to change too much, to be honest. And that's why I don't really have an answer for you, Justin. I just think the biggest thing, and this is what drives the game, is the fan experience. I just want the people that come to Camden Yards and be around there really get to enjoy their time. Because at the end of the day, without the fans watching the game, it just doesn't have the same meaning.
I think there's definitely ways to modernize it because there's some parts when you go to Orioles games and you're like, damn, this is like kind of outdated.
Mm-hmm.
I feel like there's really big opportunities to take first off the left field upper deck. like I think most games they don't allow fans to sit up there. They don't sell
No.
tickets for them. It's only like weekend or like primetime games they open it up for fans. I think they should probably cut that in half or even just take most of them out. Um, I went to a Rangers game this year, and at Globe Life they have in the upper deck in the left field they have like a brewery. It's like the sky porch. They have rocking chairs. They like took half the seats out basically and just put a whole like bar area up there. I think around the stadium, if they did more things like that to just like improve the fan experience, just like social hangouts, like bars, restaurants, like I think that would be nice. And also maybe just like the concourses could be cleaned up a little bit too. But
Yeah.
uh those are all nice to haves.
Yeah, nice to have. But they did one of the hot spots there at Camden Yards is that bar in center field. And actually, one of my really good friends, his mom was the architect for all that. I mean, that's a great fan experience, right? That makes the place buzz. To your point, clean it up a little bit, maybe add some flares that can then enhance the experience. I know at M&T Bank Stadium, the Ravens just announced that they're going to add some new renovations and seeing like almost like a beer hall, I believe, or places where people to watch. I think they can get creative. But man, even without it, it's just such a great place to go watch a game. It's just I know we're biased, Justin, but I mean it really is a special park to go to. And for me, if they make zero changes, that's fine by me. But I'm excited to see what the new look Oriole Park is going to be.
It's the ballpark that forever changed baseball, I think, is what they call it. Yeah, because right, it first came out, it was just like they got rid of those old multi-use like giant oval stadiums, and it's like Camden Yards had passion, it had flair, it had charisma, and it was just like it was awesome. So yeah, I think there's definitely little things they can do, but as a whole, still awesome. I'm excited. I'm excited for everything. The Ravens also looks incredible. They're gonna add like stuff out front. There's like a whole like concourse outside their building. Like that's gonna be the coolest thing across the street.
Yeah, I mean that's the really cool part of it, and I think that's why when people talk about the Orioles and they're looking at, well, wait a minute, fans of the Baltimore teams are going, wait a minute, the Ravens are doing all this. What? How can the Orioles counter? What are they going to do? I look at it this way, to be honest. Those things are nice, right? They're great. You know what the most important thing, Justin, is the product on the field. And right now, for the next decade and a half, guaranteed, fans know the Baltimore Orioles are going to be in Baltimore, which they never were leaving, but it's just reaffirming. And I will say this, Justin, too. It's something where it's like, the answer, but you need to be reassured. You have that anxiety. You're like, I know, like, everything's fine, but can you tell me it's fine again, one more time? But until the final deal was, put out there, people always had that doubt. And I do think it goes back to the Baltimore Colts, by the way. I do think that is something that resonates with Oriole fans. I mean, or Baltimore sports fans. I mean, how could it not? But the product for the Orioles, they are entering a window that they could have the best baseball that Oriole fans have probably seen since, I don't know, since they won the World Series, Justin. We had a 5-year stretch when I believe from 2012 to 2017 where the team, there was belief that they could go out there and play, right? That things could turn out. There was expectations going into the season. Other than that, it's kind of been a rough go. A couple years in 96, 97 where the Orioles were buzzing. 95 people liked, apparently there was a long guy played a lot of games in a row. But other than that, it was not a lot for the fans to really be excited with year in, year out. And the Orioles right now looks like for this next decade and a half, man, it could be a really, really exciting group, especially with the young core they have.
Could have said it better myself. Yeah, you're right. I want to see some long-term sustained success. You're right. 'Cause we did have the most wins in the American League from 12 to 16, I think.
Mm-hmm.
And then that evaporated very quickly and it turned very bad.
Oh,
Um,
very quickly. But they did have the expectations in 17 because I was even in spring training for that. And it was, boy, the team's going to, still there's a belief. And then things just fell off a cliff really quickly. But that's the way the cookie crumbles. That's how it goes. But we want more than just 4 years, Justin. We want more than that. And I think no matter what happens, if the team goes out and plays and balls, everyone else isn't going to care what they add to the stadium.
Good point. Yeah, I mean the Oakland A's played in the Coliseum for all those years, and they were good up until like a couple years ago, and that place was there was like raccoons living in the air vents and stuff. It was not it
Oh,
was not a very good it's not a
that
very good place
is,
to play.
you know what? Playoff time, Oakland can be buzzing. Overall experience of the stadium, probably not a fan favorite
No.
or a team favorite, to say the least.
It's a good point. I wanted to talk though because I listened to Ken Rosenthal and he was talking about how I think there's an article in the Athletic about this, and he said that out of the top 40 free agents available at the beginning of the offseason, only 13 of them have signed. And today's December 19th, 20th when you're listening. Like there's still a lot of great talent out there on the free agency market. You're hearing Yamamoto's name every single day if you're going on Twitter, Snell, Bellinger, Montgomery, etc. Does this offseason feel any different to you in terms of how slow it's gone? I feel like this might just be par for the course in terms of dudes waiting until like February.
Yeah, I mean, baseball is not like the NFL where it's free agency, where they say the free agency starts on this day, but deals are being made, 24 hours prior to the deadline. It's like sources say this player signs and then it happens and it's just a whirlwind, right? And then it slows down for a while. Baseball is the opposite because a lot of teams or players are looking at their options, seeing what's going to transpire. And in this specific case, Justin, everyone is eyed in on what the hell is Yamamoto going to do. That's really where this dives in because I think that even if teams are not necessarily in on Yamamoto and they are looking for other players, well, guess what? Like a guy like Blake Snell, right? You're going to tell me if the Yankees or one of these other teams don't get the prized pitcher of the offseason that they're not going to be interested, or Dylan Cease. I think the White Sox, their fans hate this, but pitchers are doing exactly what pitchers and organizations, back it up. Free agents and organizations are doing exactly what they're hoping to do, which is wait it out and see how much value they can get. Not the best for fans, though, Justin. I know you like action. You like it just the stove is scorching hot. I know you.
Yeah, and that's why you're right. Like the NFL and the NBA, especially, like, oh my God, during like July or whenever NBA free agency opens up, it is the craziest firestorm of Woj bombs and everybody's freaking out. Like, there's a part of me that kind of like that for baseball, but I also I appreciate the slow, drawn out approach of the hot stove because like you got to keep that stove on for like 3 months straight, right? So you got to have enough juice to keep it going for a little bit longer than NBA, NFL.
Yeah, you know what? Different than with basketball or football, the amount of hot stove topics that just come out of nowhere. And it's the same thing over time. Sources are saying that this player might be interested in this team, or this team's in, per source here, source there. And then really now it's until Jeff Passan tweets it out that to me, I don't believe anything that happens. But everyone's speculation. Randy Arozarena with that tweet of Ohtani, whatever it was with the Tampa Bay Rays. Did you remember that? Did you see that?
I saw Randy was in trade rumors. Did Randy himself do something?
I thought he posted a photo either on Instagram or Twitter, one of the social medias of him and Ohtani, and everyone's like, oh my God. Randy's going to the Dodgers with Glass now. Like it's happening. And then obviously it didn't, but it's the speculation that just drives people insane. Like the Yankees apparently using Matsui for Yamamoto, or that the Dodgers are bringing everybody that is anybody to their meetings. I mean, and then everyone loses their mind. So I guess that part's entertaining, right?
I hate the part where it's like one player is holding up the entire market. That always makes me
Yeah.
like, we're all just waiting to see where Ohtani goes, and then Ohtani goes to the Dodgers. It's like, all right, well, we're all waiting to see where Yamamoto goes. It's like, can we stop having these guys single-handedly just like put the clamps on MLB free agency, waiting for them to figure out a team?
Yeah. The other one that the name that we haven't mentioned so far in this, and usually, pitchers, they're so important, right? I mean, starting pitching is something that people are going to chase after. But I really want to see what happens with Cody Bellinger, Justin. That is the one. that I just been staring at and looking at because he had such a great bounce back year, and he wants to get paid, but what do you do? Where does he go? Like that like, and that's what you're to your point. Like I want to see these moves move forward, but we have seen in the past deals whether certain players hold up the dead or the off season or not. Players aren't afraid now, and their agents aren't afraid to let this go closer and closer to spring training. They aren't. It's a different day and age, and um, maybe we'll get lucky and get a holiday gift with some of these moves. But my other guess would be is don't hold your breath until 2024.
That's gotta be stressful for guys with families though.
Oh, no
Like
doubt.
trying to figure out like where, hey, honey, we're gonna have to move, and the kids are gonna have to change schools, and it's like, I mean, I guess if you're like a young guy in like your 20s, it doesn't really matter. But yeah, I mean, like Harper like took until February, and Machado took until like February, and like some of these guys are waiting until the very like the bus goes already going down to Florida with the bags and stuff, and it's like, oh, by the way, he's coming with us. Like that's not my favorite thing in the world.
Well, but that's a hard thing for when you're trying to figure out your roster too, right? It's because maybe you have certain plans, but then you can't rely. What if you miss out? And I know that we've heard that some of these bigger teams, like the reports, the Yankees are still going to be aggressive for somebody if they don't get Yamamoto. The Orioles are still looking to be aggressive. There's names that could be out there, right? But overall, when you have you're really banking on something. Imagine then for some of these players that are just going into camp too, they don't know their status. Then you're sitting there, they got to go do their jobs. And then as the front office, the GM, they're looking at it going, well, this could change a lot of what our team could look like in a matter of, in the snap of a finger. So, and for families though, you're just going along for the ride. It really is what it is. Like you have to go with the flow with it. Now, at least you can, if you're an established player and you're getting that type of contract, Justin, life's pretty good in that case, in the sense that you're going to have some stability and you can have a place in the off season and know that everyone's taken care of. But other guys, yeah, it's, you're just going with the flow, and hopefully you can keep your emotions in check. That's the other part with contracts too, Justin. This is the time, whether it's arbitration to free agency, these are tough conversations. And for free agency specifically, you are trying to be the best damn salesman to these guys. How can you be that? And that is a role that's exhausting. I don't envy that at all. But also you're trying to prove to the guy that, hey, come, it's like when you go to a car dealership. Why is my car the best? I'll tell you why my car is the best. It's like the Yankees. Let me explain to you why we're the best. The Dodgers, you want to come here because it's exhausting, man.
That's a great point. That's got to suck for bottom of the roster guys fighting to stay on a team, and it's like, oh my god, they just signed somebody to come take my job, or I have to have a competition now where I thought I was the number one guy. I thought I had this thing locked up, and oh good, now I have to fight all spring to make the team. That sucks. Okay. Yeah, there's a lot that goes into that. You don't really think about that as a fan. But yeah, if you're a player right now, you have to be, yeah, you don't have to have like MLB Network on all day, but I feel like you have to kind of be in the know of like, is there somebody coming to take my job?
That's a part we all do it, right? Every single time. That I remember even in the minors when the draft happened, and you're sitting there going, "Does someone get drafted in my position? Are they going to release certain guys?" Or if your team's selling, back to that when the Orioles were selling the farm, a lot of prospects were coming in. That messes with guys. The reality is the standard answer is, hey, you just got to control what you can control. But deep down, you're like, well, damn, I got to go out and ball. I got to go out and play, and I can only control what I can control. But that's not what I was expecting. That wasn't on my bingo card last week, and now it is. So the whole process, and I think I've grown more of an appreciation or an understanding of it all, because this sports business world, and in the blink of an eye, things can change just like that. It's great to play for a living, but nothing can surprise there's nothing that's happened or that has happened in the last few years that surprises me anymore.
It's a great point. I wanted to shift gears. I want to talk about a team that you wouldn't necessarily think would be off-season spenders and wouldn't be fueling the hot stove as much as they have been this offseason. But the Kansas City Royals have been balling out. The checkbook has been wide open in Kansas City. So this is a team last year that had 56 wins and a bottom 5 payroll. But in the course of like 2 weeks this offseason, they've added $105 million total to their payroll, and they've spent more than they have the 5th most offseason spending thus far. A lot of teams have 0, which is another issue. When you saw the Royals spending money on guys like Waka, Lugo, and Renfro, and Will Smith, like what did you think about all that, and what does that tell you about how they view the competitiveness of the AL Central?
I think that they believe there's a window. The Twins had a great year, but can it be sustainable? When you look at the rest of the division, what are you going to do? Like what team right there are you looking at that you can't go out and play? And a lot of these teams are at a crossroad, and we'll read them off. So Minnesota won the division, right? Could they bounce back? But Minnesota's been kind of up and down over the last few years, right? Cleveland's in a new era. They really are. What are they going to do? Are they going to be this team that's still going to be rebuilding? It seemed like 2 years ago they were going to be this resurging or they were going to be a surging team. And then this past year happened, and now you're scratching your head. The Detroit Tigers did exactly kind of what the Royals are doing. They were aggressive because they thought the window was there. And then you have the White Sox, which, I mean, look, if you had said that they would be at a crossroads now, if you said that 2 years ago they'd be in a crossroads going into the 2024 season, they'd probably laugh. But they cleaned house, and now they're stuck with, well, what are we going to do with the roster that we have? And so, yeah, Kansas City might have made people, question what the hell are you doing? Your team was so bad last year. But to them, they're thinking, well, we think we can just get a little bit better here and a little bit better there. This AL Central could be up for grabs. And hell, you love a good spending spree, Justin. I bet the Royals fans are excited that their team is going to try to make more of an effort in the 2024 season.
I just think it sends a great message. Like the Royals haven't had a winning season since 2015. There's been a lot of losing, but you look at their roster and you're like, I don't know. Like, they added pitching, obviously Lugo and Waka and Stratton and like some like middle of the rotation guys, but can eat innings and it'll probably be pretty productive. And it's like, they have some offense now. They got Renfro. They still have Sal Perez. You're like, why not? I think the Royals are just looking at themselves saying, hey, why not us? In a division that you just talked about where the Twins are cutting back and the Tigers are still figuring it out. And, there's a lot of mediocrity at best in this division. Like, hell, who's to say we can't be a third wild card team, win 80 games or even win the division? Like, I don't know. And also, I just think that like for everybody who's a fan of a team that hasn't spent any money or is a small market team, it's like, the money's there if they want it. Like the Pirates are spending a little bit. The Royals are spending a little bit. Like, it doesn't matter what market size or, how many people live in your area. Like if the Kansas City Royals, who had like a bad record last year, can spend money, anybody can.
Yeah. Well, the other name that you didn't mention as well is Bobby Witt Jr. I mean, the dude is a stud. And I know a lot of people were sitting there going, well, what's going on? And maybe when he got off to a little bit of a slower start, or just because the Kansas City Royals haven't been good, that his superstardom is diminished. I think he's a superstar, and I think he's going to become a household name for a lot of teams or a lot of fans very soon. He's 23 years old. He just had a season where he just came off hitting 30 jacks. In his rookie year, he had 20. And he plays a premier position. And not only that, with the 30 jacks, too, he's driving in runs, 96 RBIs. He slugged almost 500, just shy of it, actually. So you're talking about a player, a foundational piece that's there. Bobby Witt Jr. is really going to be the star that baseball fans, if you love baseball, you need to watch him next year. No doubt about it. And I'm with you. I think for fans, you want to just have a glimmer of hope. But for this case, though, because the Royals farm system, what they've done has underwhelmed. I think it's safe to say. I think that for the troubles that they have, the reason why I'm saying underwhelmed, it's no knock to the players itself. It's that the Royals are in the same position that they've been in since they, were a World Series contender. After that point. So I think it's a great message, and I just hope that they don't get 56 wins this year. Please, please don't, because if not, then there'll be another miserable year in Kansas City.
Yeah. Also, they should just bring Zach Greinke back. He wants to pitch again. There's no reason not to. I know he had a 5 ERA last year, but you got to bring Zach back. He's the heart and soul of the team, even though he doesn't really talk that much.
Hey, he is one of a kind, and he has been a gem to have around. But I guess we'll find out. I just want to, you know what, Justin? We saw a lot of great, outcomes out of this 2023 season. We saw the Diamondbacks, have this resurgence. We saw the Baltimore Orioles also be back in the mix, be the number one seed. Obviously, Diamondbacks go to the World Series. Can we get another team like the Kansas City Royals? Then can we get the Pittsburgh Pirates? Like, this is what would be great for the game. And I think that's what I get excited about is of the AL Central, if you say any of those teams were going to be in the hunt, I'd be fired up because I just think that overall would be so much better for the game of baseball and not just one team dominating over and over again, which honestly, when I look at it, yes, it's right. The Central's just been this revolving door over and over again recently. So we'll see. Should be fun, but that's what we want. Bring
New
back
blood.
these teams. Yeah, bring them back. Come
I
on.
like it. Let's stick in the Central and let's preview the interview I did this week with your pal Gavin Sheets, Chicago White Sox own. It was awesome. I had Gavin for an hour. We talked a little bit about you at the beginning though.
Mm,
Gavin says that I was like, what was it like? Growing up with Rip, going to high school with him. He's like, guy was never on time. Guy
that's
was
true.
late. He said he would look out the window and it would be like halfway through the class period, and then you'd come walking in. So, uh,
Cannot deny that claim. Yes, there was I think I hold the lateness record all time at my school at Gilman, no doubt about it. Granted, I always had trouble sleeping growing up, but I think it was more of, I was just trying to be an entertainer at that point, Justin, right? Like I knew Gavin was watching and I know that he really didn't like first period, so I thought I was maybe doing him a favor. I'm surprised you had a good conversation with him because sometimes I think he's the worst. Just kidding. As you know, and for the listeners out there, he's one of my best friends. I've known him for too long, and I'm glad you guys had a colorful conversation. He really is one of the most entertaining guys. Understands the game extremely well, and above all, likes to enjoy talking about the game and spreading, uh, positivity with it. He's I don't like to compliment him much because what are best friends for? But as I usually always say, Justin, he's a good kid.
yeah, that's one of my favorite things is when you call somebody a good kid. Yeah, he just like I appreciated how open he was about stuff. It's just like playing the game, growing up, the struggles of like growing up with his dad, who's also a big league player, and coming up through the minors and coming up in the White Sox 21 season when they were going to the playoffs, and just like I don't know, he's gone through a lot. He also like he's a Maryland guy. We're the same age, so I was like this is it. This is our guy. He's a good
Yeah,
kid.
I mean, yeah, he's a good kid. And the other part too, what I loved is that despite all of the bloodlines of it, how he handled himself. And now they're a powerhouse, Wake Forest is, but when he went there, they weren't. And to see the kind of evolution of it, and he was a guy that put in a lot of work and a lot of effort to get to where he is. And that whole 2021 season, because we got to play against each other in AAA, and to see him be able to live out the dream, being in the bigs, and they get to play in the postseason, hit a home run in the postseason, like it's incredible. Not going to spoil anything because you guys talked about a lot, but I'm glad you finally got him on the pod, and yeah, I think you guys are really going to enjoy it.
Last thing. He said when you guys were in AAA together and he would get on first base with you, he said you guys were just like fucking around the entire time.
Oh, all the time. All the time. I'm surprised. Did he tell you about the time where he fell into the dugout? Did he mention that
No.
one? Oh
No.
man. Maybe we were in Norfolk and there I was I wasn't playing that game. and I was jawing at him from the dugout. And Norfolk has like a 10-foot fall. It's not like you come right out of the stairs. You have to go up a slant. It's I guess it's an older stadium, but Gavin kept saying, "Oh, I'm going to Superman and make a great play here." I go, "If you Superman, I am not going to catch you." Because it's barriers to even get around. And sure enough, though, Gavin comes over. The railing's too small, though, for a guy his size. He makes the catch, flips, lands right on the concrete. And I just sit there, and my teammates heard it all, like this conversation too. And I'm like, oh, holy shirts and pants. And I'm like, please be okay. And then guys are like, geez, Rip, like, you're not going to help your boy? And they're joking. I'm like, I actually would have tried to catch him, but I literally couldn't get there. And I'm like, this is the worst. This is my worst nightmare. But I'm like playing it off in my head. I'm like, Gavin, you're fine. Like, suck it up. Like, you're good. It almost felt like it was like from the Wedding Crashers where Vince Vaughn gets the absolute shit kicked out of him by why am I blanking on it? Sack.
Yeah.
Well, just getting sacked playing football, and then Vince Vaughn's like, "I hate you." That's how I felt. Gavin felt about me to Owen Wilson. Like, I hate you. If I had any air in my lungs, but needless to say, he was good. That if he was actually hurt, it would have mortified me. It was, but yeah, he ended up being fine. He sucked it up, put some ice on it, and went to the big league. So all's good. I'm surprised he didn't bring that up because he likes to just blame me for that all the time.
No, but so he popped right back up, or did he kind of just like that sucks? Like you flip over a railing, you fall on your like your ass.
He got every bit of his backside and body on the concrete. Justin, if I could show this of how the dugout is designed in Norfolk, it's such a big drop off, and it's such a big dugout too. And there's a giant staircase that leads up, so you can't even run across. So that's where he went to the one spot where there was no rubber down on the dugout, and he landed right there. Whammy. He made the play though, I think. So,
Wow.
And then he was back in the lineup. He was fine. He needed to, it's called tough love. He needed to, figure it out.
He might have been milking it. Yeah, we don't know.
Yeah, I think so. He didn't. I drove him back, and he claimed he was hurt, and we didn't go to dinner then because he needed to rest. But
I think his ego is probably bruised more than anything else.
Oh gosh, man, that I will say on the base. I said it before, but on the baseball field, that was one of those moments where it's the talk about foreshadowing of just
called it. You called your shot.
No, he called his shot.
Oh, he called his shot.
He called his shot, but I wasn't wrong. I'm like, I'm not going to be able to catch you. Let's just make that clear. And he did it. He had the audacity to make a hell of a play. So, Gav, love you, man. You're a good kid.
He's a very good kid. What a way to set up an interview. Ryan, thank you for everything for 2023. Looking forward to 2024. It's been a hell of a ride. So appreciate your time as always. And let's end 2023 on a fun note. Let's send it over to my conversation with Chicago White Sox outfielder Gavin Sheets. Enjoy. All right, we are now joined by a very special guest, Gavin Sheets of the Chicago White Sox. Gavin, thank you so much for taking some time. The holidays are almost here, but I really appreciate it. How are you doing?
Absolutely. Good to be on. I'm doing well, enjoying the off season. Just bearing for the cold weather that's coming our way right now. But no, this is always a fun time of year, obviously with the holidays coming up and, being with the family and enjoying all that with the off season as well.
I dig it. So I wanted to start actually with our mutual friend, Ryan Ripken, the GOAT. I know you guys know each other very well for a long time. I'm wondering though, I want to take it way back. Like when did you and Rye Guy first meet?
We go back probably before I can even remember. I was obviously my dad and Cal were extremely close, roommates all the way up through the big leagues and are still very close to this day. So, Ryan being 2 or 3 years older than me, I probably knew him before I even knew that I knew him. And then we went to the same school. We went to Gilman together and He always loved to be the big brother at school. So yeah, we go way back, and are still extremely. He was one of my groomsmen in my wedding last year, and still extremely close.
I love that. What was high school, like middle school, high school Ryan like? I think wasn't he like super skinny? It's like
Super skinny, never on time for anything. I'll never forget. I had a classroom that was overlooking the parking lot, and I could see him coming up every day, about halfway through, if not at the end of the first period, every single day late to school. So that was him. He was never on time to anything, never on time to practice, but a great competitor. He was, him. It was fun playing basketball and baseball with him. A lot of people don't realize how good of a basketball player he was. Still to this day, he's a huge pickup player, and you get him on the court, and it's a whole different animal.
well, you guys both are super tall, aren't you? Aren't you both like 6'5", 6'4", something like that?
Yeah,
Like
he's
that's
probably got me. He's probably 6'6", so he's probably got me by 2 inches. He's a big dude, so that height, and he could shoot. He didn't really have there was no stopping him with his range. I mean, he'd back up to half court almost when he was feeling it. So yeah, he was quite the player that no one really knows about.
I love that. I'll have to ask him about that.
Yeah.
You mentioned this, but like the common connection between you and him obviously is like your dads. They both played in the Orioles together. What was it like having somebody like Ryan who like you could have that same kind of shared experience with?
Yeah, obviously, he we both had the pressure of our parents playing, but obviously his was a little bit greater than mine. Being the son of Cal, but I could go to him for a lot of things, and that's one of the biggest things I respect about him is the way he handled it growing up. I mean, there was a lot of pressure on him, but in being in this Baltimore area too, at Gilman, I don't think it was fair the way he was treated. It was almost like people treated it like a curse to him that, oh, your father's Cal, so if you go for 3 today, you're terrible. You're a disgrace to your family. It's like seeing him go through some of the things that he had to go through just for being the son of a great player. I didn't think was fair, and so it was tough at times being as close as I was with him to watch some of the stuff he had to go through, especially in the Baltimore area, but. Being able to watch it and see the way he handled it, that was huge for me. It definitely shaped me and helped me handle different adversity through dealing with the same things, just not to as great of an extent, but yeah, definitely learned from him in a lot of ways.
Especially at a young age too, right? Because like it's very like your formative years are just like spent like in his case, obviously under like a more intense spotlight. But yeah, I can't imagine just the scrutiny of like playing the game that your dad did at like they did at such a high level, and then there's you. That's like was that hard? Obviously it was, but like what can you kind of put into words like how difficult that was?
Yeah, it was tough, just the expectations. I was an okay player at ninth and 10th grade. So like trying to mold myself as an athlete while doing it with the expectations of, okay, your dad's a Major League Baseball player. Well, just because he's a Major League Baseball player doesn't mean that I'm just naturally going to be able to hit the ball farther, hit the ball harder, or do any of that stuff. I mean, it's not just a guarantee. So there's so much work and stuff that has to go behind it, and just the process of becoming an athlete and going through your growing pains, and learning how to compete and become an athlete. And so people just automatically assume, oh, it's so much easier for him because his dad was a Major League Baseball player. Of course he's going to be a baseball player. And it's some of that stuff's funny to me to listen to. And it's funny, I was watching this stuff this weekend with Charlie Woods, and the expectations for him, it's ridiculous. I mean, and I fall into it as well. Like I expect Charlie to win the Masters by 2030 and do all this stuff, and just because we fall in love with their dads. But yeah, it's tough, but it's also fun. I mean, you get to deal with them and embrace them, and yeah.
Charlie and his dad have like the same exact like swing and mannerisms. I'm wondering if that kind of got like passed down between you and your dad. Like, do you like is your swing the same as his? Like, are there things he did that you do?
Yeah, there's a lot of similarities. You go back and look at some of his baseball cards and some of my baseball cards. There's so many different mannerisms that we had the same, and moves in our swing, and some different setups. Is not as identical as Charlie and Tiger are, but so many similarities and so many different same mannerisms. And so it's funny to see that and look at, young pictures of him. And I just don't have the mustache he rocked when he played.
Yeah, that's a good point. Although I was looking, I was gonna ask this later, but like the Chicago White Sox, I'm jumping around a lot, but like the Chicago White Sox just seem like they have the mustache thing figured out. There's like half a dozen guys I feel like on the team with a stash. Can you just not grow one? Is that just like a conscious
I
decision
just
to
can't,
not?
when you're competing with some of the guys that are rocking them on there. When we had Rodon rocked one, and then obviously Berger and Cease, they fed off each other last year. It was and Cease the way he feeds off that and embrace that has been funny. So yeah, it caught on, and those guys rolled with it, and I couldn't even compete with what they were rocking. So I just decided to let them do that one.
Yeah, I mean, Dylan Cease is just my favorite. I mean, that's just
Oh my
like that's
gosh,
the coolest. Like,
it's a straight
respect to
caterpillar.
anybody that can rock it.
Yeah, yeah, he's fully embraced it, and he's the perfect guy to rock something like that. So, yeah, I was all for it, just not for me.
Going back to your dad though, I think he was your baseball coach in high school too, wasn't he?
Yeah, yeah.
What? Okay, so that's a whole different thing. Like being the coach's son, not only the coach's son, but the son of a guy that played in the major leagues. Like, what was his coaching style? Was it like, did he try to not play favorites? Like, how did that work?
Yeah, so I'd say in the beginning he made me do everything to get on the field, and almost to the point where like we would butt heads all the time. He tried so hard not to play favorites and play like, daddy ball and all that stuff. I mean, it finally got to the point where he told me afterwards. I obviously didn't know at the time. I was just playing to play, whatever. But coaches had to come to him and say, "Hey, we need to play him more. Like, it's okay. He's earned the right to play. You can put him in the lineup more. No one's gonna. We're all for it. Like, so he definitely, which I appreciated. He made me earn it. Nothing was given. And I really, him and our relationship grew even stronger when he was the coach. We had a great relationship from that, and yeah, we just had a ton of respect for each other, and we're kind of put the father son aside when we're on the field and in practice, and yeah, it was great.
Just like tough coaching in general, not just like from him, but just like throughout your career. Were you somebody that like, do you respond well to that kind of coaching style, or like, were you the kind of person that like you kind of need to be, kicked along a little bit?
Yeah, I loved the tough. The tough was how I kind of grew up. My dad was always tough. It was, and I just feel like when you're coached that way, positive, saying good job or saying, just positive stuff means more that way. I feel like it's actually when you know, to get a positive remark or a good game from him, that meant so much more than someone that would just say it every day, like, oh, good rep. And I just feel like it loses its meaning. So having him that was very tough, and but when you heard a good game or a good at bat or something like that, it just meant so much more. And so that was how I was raised. And I love that side of it. I think that it's getting tougher and tougher. I talk to our college coach all the time. It's just getting tougher and tougher because I feel like that side of coaching is getting pushed out a little bit too much right now, and it's too much of just good job, good at bat, good, everything's good, and then and then you see guys get some criticism and there's pushback just because they don't know how to handle it as well.
That's a great point. I've never actually thought of it that way. I've always thought of it as like the opposite, where I'm like, dang, like when I played baseball, I was just like, this guy's all over me. I'm not a fan of this. Like it sucks. But like, yeah, I guess you're right. Like the moments where it's like, hey man, you really did a good job out there. After all of that, like, yeah, I don't think I've ever actually heard anybody articulate it that way, but it makes so much sense.
Mm-hmm.
What's like the breakdown of like coaches you've had that have been like hard on you versus like, the opposite? Is there one more than the other?
I just think it's a good mixture to have when your manager or your head coach or I feel like that's the way assistant coaches and head coaches can kind of feed off each other. I think that managers and head coaches can be a lot tougher, and then you have your assistant coaches who are there in the grind every day working with you that are just more positive. And I think that creates a really good, like, Tony La Russa was obviously a Hall of Fame manager, but he was really good at that. It was same thing from him. When he told you good job or good at bat or something like that, first off, it's coming from a Hall of Famer. But second off, it's just, the way he was, he made you earn his respect. And so those went a long way hearing that stuff. And so, but, your assistant coaches, your hitting coaches that you're in there grinding with every day, those are your more positive guys, kind of your more mental side of that builds you up, because baseball just continuously breaks you down.
Yeah, it's a game of failure. I was doing some reading. You were the captain in high school and college, I think, right?
Yeah.
Okay. I wanted to talk about just like leadership and clubhouse leadership. Like that's a huge deal. I feel like being captain at like both of those levels. Like, what does being a leader in a clubhouse, what does that mean to you?
The biggest thing is I think you need to hold yourself to a higher standard. It's impossible to gain the respect of others or have other guys listen to you when you're not doing things the right way. And I think that's the number one thing. I think it's the way you go about your business, the way you go about your work, on and off the field. And you can't get guys to follow you if you're not doing things the right way. And so that's kind of the way that I've always approached it. It's not about, I'm not much of a rah guy, or, let's have a team meeting or stuff like that. Cause I think that, you guys come in line by the way that people go about their work, and, they buy in by stuff like that. So, that's always been the biggest thing for me. I haven't been, I can be a vocal guy when I need to be, but I'd just rather, have guys follow just the way things are going, because, I go about my business the right way.
I like that. Yeah, lead by example. I feel like that's probably like one of the more effective ways.
Yeah.
As you advanced up the ranks, like you're going through the minors, you're in the big leagues, like were there guys that like you look to for advice, or like were good in those kind of roles where it's like lead by example, this is the tone we're setting?
Yeah, I think the best player I've ever played with that led by example was Jose Abreu. I came up, and even before I got to the big leagues, you would get invited to big league spring training, or you'd come up, and you just watch the way he went about his business. And obviously, you see a MVP caliber player that, is just the first one in there. And you hear all the time, first one in, last one out. But and then when you actually see it, and it's not just always the first one in, last one out, it's just a saying, and you see what it looks like and what it means. And, he was the farthest thing from a vocal leader. And, there's a little bit of a language barrier, but he just didn't care to speak. He didn't, and that was perfectly fine. The way he went about his business and the way he handled the day-to-day grind, and it was incredible. And I still talk about it. We still talk about it all the time. And I think that, we lost some of that this year. And, but, obviously seeing him with Houston having success, and it was cool to see the way he went about his business.
I like that. You always hear about like the veteran leadership, like the rookies, the veteran, like that dynamic. But like as somebody who's never been in that kind of locker room or seen that up close, like can you kind of describe from like what you've seen, like how common is it? So when you hear like this guy is a great clubhouse presence, a great clubhouse leader, talking about like the veteran guys, like what does that practically look like? Are there instances where young guys are coming up, the older players, and like asking for advice, or are they seeking it out? Like what does that look like in practice?
Yeah, I think the biggest thing is when you first get up to the big leagues, you just kind of sit back and watch a little bit. It's one of those things like seen and not heard. The last thing you want to do as a rookie is come up and be, loud and obnoxious. And so, what I did is I just came up and watched guys. How does Lance Lynn go about his business? How does Tim Anderson go about his business? What does Jose Abreu do? And you start to see the similarities between all these great players. And then next thing you know is you start to work as hard as them, or you try to keep up with them. And, this guy's doing this, I want to be doing this too. And, veterans are hard at first, and I think it's on purpose. They want to see what you're all about. They want to see how you go about your business. They want to see, does he run his mouth? And then when they can kind of get a grasp for you, then they start to, talk to you a little bit, and then they start to work in, and then you build some really, really great relationships. So that's the biggest thing is about veterans. I think that they like to, kind of sit back and feel you out a little bit, be tough on you, just kind of give you like the cold shoulder a little bit and see how you handle it. And which I think is awesome. It's such a fun side of the clubhouse and how baseball works. And, obviously younger guys are coming up, it's getting younger and younger in baseball. And I think being a veteran is getting harder and harder because, there's a lot of money thrown around to young guys. And so, it's tough being a veteran who's making less than a guy that's coming up as a rookie. So I'll never want to see that side of the game go away, because I think it's crucial to every winning team. If you don't have that, I don't care what your talent is. I think it's nearly impossible to be a winning team.
I like that. Yeah, I mean, the first thing I think, I've been an Orioles fan, so like I'm thinking about like this past year where it's like their whole roster feels like they're 24 years old. Then you have guys like Kyle Gibson and Frazier and McCann and like these guys that are in their 30s and have some dirt in their spikes, and it's like, yeah, I feel like you kind of need those guys. The other thing I'm curious about too is just like clubhouse chemistry and I guess just like vibes in general. Are there guys that like go out of their way to be in charge of like, making sure everybody's loose, having a good time? Like, is there a role for guys like that, and how have you kind of seen that play out in your career?
For sure, I think that's just as important. The last thing you can let happen is baseball to be the end all be all in a clubhouse. There's got to be fantasy football. There's got to be team dress ups, rookie dress ups. I mean, this is, if not, you're just going to get, caught up in what's my batting average. I'm in a slump. This is miserable. We just lost the last 5 of 6. Like, you play 162 games. If all you're focused on when you get to the clubhouse is that game that night, or you're going to get miserable. And, road trips are fun. And, guys took charge for us. Like Lance Lynn took charge of, the fantasy footballs, the team outings, so that's a side of it that's crucial. Not just the baseball side of it, but veterans taking over and keeping the team together on and off the field.
I like the team dinner aspect. I've asked a couple guys about this, but like on the White Sox, is there like a de facto guy that like picks up the tab? Is there like, do the rookies just like get hazed sometimes? It's like, oh, by the way, here's $12,000. You need to get that.
No,
Like,
we never did the rookie dinner. Thank goodness. We always had guys like Keiko was great about that. Lance Lynn, Grandal. We had the veteran guys that would always step up and help out with that. But those are some of the best nights. You go out on the road trip and none of your families make it, so you guys are just all there together, and you go out for a team dinner. And those are some of the best memories that you have. It's not just the memories on the field, but it's stuff like that you go and do as a team. And the conversations and the camaraderie that goes on there is second to none.
We interrupt this episode to bring you a word from the official sponsor of Not For Long Media and the Breaking Bats podcast, the original Fudge Kitchen. It is a staple of the Jersey Shore with 6 locations in Cape May, Wildwood, North Wildwood, Stone Harbor, and Ocean City. The original Fudge Kitchen makes all of their fudge in store, guaranteeing a delicious product, so stop by and let them know that Not For Long Media and Breaking Bats sent you. Check them out online at fudgekitchens.com, as they are shipping fudge and sweet treats all across the country. Now back to the episode. I love that. Yeah, you're right. That doesn't get talked about enough. Yeah, just like making sure everybody's like in a good headspace, positive vibes, positive energy. Like, yeah, I think you're absolutely right. I wanted to shift gears just a little bit because we're both Maryland guys. I'm from the Eastern Shore. You're a Baltimore guy. I'm wondering though, like, Orioles fan, I'm assuming growing up, right? I mean, obviously, right?
Yeah, for sure.
Okay. When was that moment? When was that first time you remember watching baseball, watching the O's, and you're like, I love this. I love this game. I'm all in.
Yeah, I mean, I would say for me, it was going to the field with my dad. He was doing stuff. He obviously wasn't playing when I was born, but I went to the field with him, and when he did signings or would go for batting practice, and just being around the guys, being around the clubhouse, seeing the way the fans reacted to him, just being at the stadium or doing autograph stuff, that was so cool to me. And I just fell in love with everything that came along with the game. Just the batting practice, the shagging fly balls, just every little part of it I loved. And, obviously the Orioles got really good when I was, in middle school, high school, when they had Chris Davis and Marquez and Jones and those guys. And, it's so easy to become a fan of them. And, getting to go to Fan Fest with my dad, and he was signing, I'd be, in the back with those guys and getting to meet some of them. And, yeah, it was really easy to fall in love with that team and to fall in love with baseball overall.
That's awesome. Yeah, no, like I did this. I mean, Fan Fest, going to games, it's the best. What did you have a couple favorite players growing up?
I did. So Chris Davis, when he was hitting 30 to 50 homers a year, I mean, who didn't love that guy? And Marquez, and yeah, I just that whole team, the energy that Adam Jones brought, it was a really fun team to watch and a fun team to, I feel like it kind of brought baseball in Baltimore back. Obviously they were really good for, before I was around, before I was alive. And then, we had that slow period through 2010. And then it came back. And then it was, Baltimore's a great fan base. It's a great sports city. And so, we saw it again this year with them. It was cool to see, them bring this city, get back into baseball spirit. And obviously our season was over. So I was back in Baltimore for their playoffs. And the energy was back like I hadn't seen it in a long time. So that was cool to see.
No doubt. So do you stay in Maryland in the off season? Are you like a native, like driver's license Maryland? Are you like a Maryland guy?
I am. My wife and I just bought a house in Hunt Valley, so we're about 20 minutes outside the city, and I've got family on the Eastern Shore, so I'm always down on the Eastern Shore, and so yeah, I'm gonna be here to stay.
Yes. This is great. This is okay. So that's my next thing is like, what are your favorite things to do in the area? Are you like a golf guy? Do you go to the beach? You go down to Ocean City?
Big golfer. I don't do beaches. I don't care for beaches. I don't care for. It's just boring to me, to be honest with you, unless it's a really big group and a fun group. But yeah, I'm a big golfer. I'm a big hunter. Do a lot of fishing. So anything outdoors, anything where I'm moving and doing stuff, that's for me. The beach, the laying on the beach, that is not for me. Unless there's games going on and we're doing stuff, I'm all for it. But yeah, the laying on the beach doesn't pique my interest very much.
That's a good point. Also, yeah. Also, you're just playing baseball when it's like warm outside. So yeah, I'm
right.
What is an off day? Is it like are you planning off days around golf? Are you like if you're out on the road somewhere? Are there activities that you're like, all right, I have to go try and do this?
Oh yeah, we got a group going out we got the first or second tee time for sure. We're hitting the links, and some days in Chicago when it's a nice weather, obviously it's a great city, so we'll try to get a boat and go out on the lake. But most of the off days are surrounded by golf. So we get about 6 to 8 of us will go out and have a great time.
I think just most baseball players, they just secretly want to be golfers. I think that like if I took like a poll, it's probably most.
Yeah, you find that most baseball players want to be golfers and most golfers probably want to be baseball players. So I think that's the two sports that have great relationships. You see a lot of baseball, golf tournaments. Whit Merrifield just hosted one in Florida that was really awesome. And I just think it's the two sports that the guys on both sides seem to relate really well to two sports of failure, just hard mental sports. So I think there's a lot of similarities and there's a reason why there's a lot of great relationships between the two.
I like that. If you had to pick, you're going out for a round, you got to pick 3 other guys to go with you. We'll say in the baseball community, for current, former players, who would you want to build your tee time, your foursome around?
Man, we're saying current and former. Oof.
Yeah.
Well, Griffey's my guy. I'd have to go with Ken Griffey Jr. Ted Williams. Oof, one more, probably Derek Jeter. I'd show up for that tee time.
You wouldn't be like Ryan and show up like 30 minutes late?
No, I would not. I would be the guy there opening up the clubhouse.
I wanted to talk about like playing first base though, because I feel like that's kind of like you grew up playing first base. That's like a social position. Like when you're on first base and you get like a guy, are you like a friendly conversationalist at first base, or like depends on who's there?
Yeah, I think it's always weird when you get to first and the first baseman is just like cold shouldering you. It's just so weird. I mean, that's
dead silent.
Yeah, it's not how it's supposed to be over there. It's a fraternity when you get to first base. Everybody's a baseball player. There's no reason to be, cold shouldering anybody. But you can pick up pretty quick if the guy's going to talk or not. When you get there, you just give him what's going on, how you doing, whatever. And some guys are just ready to talk as soon as they get to first base. They're just ready to roll. Like it's almost like they've got their list of questions. They're ready to rock, which is really funny. And there's some guys that get there and just kind of stare at you. So it's like, all right, you just kind of feed off what they're giving you.
I like that. Yeah, it's like Sean Casey was the mayor. He was just like, he's like, hey man, how's the family? How's everything going? Yeah.
Yeah, that guy. From what I've heard, he had the list of stuff ready to go when you got there.
Have you been on first base? Because we're friends with Nathaniel Lowe on this podcast. When you play Texas, like, have
Mhm.
you and Nathaniel ever like? I
He's a
feel like you
great
guys
one.
are. Yeah.
He's a great one. Big golfer. He's ready
Yeah.
to talk. He's definitely ready to talk when you get there. And yeah, it's hilarious. It's funny that the different guys you get over there, and yeah, and it's funny. Going into some games, it's like, if I get the first, he's probably not going to talk.
Oh, who are your favorite people to get on first base with?
Oh, that's tough. Put me on the spot. Ty France is a great one. Ty France and I always have good conversations. Christian Walker, um, Mountcastle with the Orioles. We always have great combos. Usually it circles back to Ryan talking about him going through the minors. So yeah, there are a couple guys that are always a good time when you get to first.
Wait, have you been on first base with Mountcastle and Ryan Ripken has come up?
No, I wish. The
Oh,
best was when Ryan and I were playing in AAA, and he was on first base, and we'd have a blast over there. We'd be messing around the whole time, and I'm surprised we didn't get yelled at by our coaches.
oh, that's right. Yeah, was it Charlotte Knights and the Tides?
Yeah. So we played against each other, and that's when the series were 6 games in a row. So we were having a blast playing each other and messing around, and yeah, that was always fun.
That's also 6 games in a row is insane. Is that normal in the minors?
It just started after COVID, and it was crazy. The fact that tempers didn't flare every single series was mind blowing. Between that and having umpires, the same 3 umpires for 6 games in a row was, that's just a recipe for a disaster. But it wasn't bad. It made for great travel. We had Mondays off, which was nice. But yeah, it was something new for sure. But travel and living conditions were great because of it.
That's a great point. Also, it would be funny if like, you might have slipped up in game 1, you might have said something to the umpire, then you just have to deal with him for like a week straight, like that.
Yeah, that's a long time. I mean, you got him behind home plate twice. That's a recipe for. I think it should be. You can do 6-game series, but I think the umpire should switch every 3, just because you get guys behind home plate twice. That's tough.
You gotta like go out of your way and just be like super over the top nice. I feel like you just have to like
That's
shower
the best
them.
thing about first base is you get the guy the night before he's the home plate guy, so you can always suck up to him.
That's a great point.
You got to. You got to play the game.
Yeah, I saw though. So playing first base most of the time, and then you get to the big league. Was it when you got to the big leagues you started playing the outfield, or did that start in the minors?
It started a little bit in AAA, but that was. I got called up within 2 months, so that was really in the big leagues. I learned it and played it, so that was it's pretty nerve-wracking to say the least.
Yeah, talk to me about that, because like fans just assume that like, oh, he's an athlete, he can he could seamlessly slide into the outfield no problem. But like we've had guys on just like I think we had Adam Frazier who just like they stuck him in the corner for the first time in the big leagues, and he's like, all right, I guess I'm a right fielder now. Like,
Yeah.
Can you talk about like what the process is of trying to learn the nuances of the position like that?
Yeah, it's a lot. It's funny because people say, yeah, kind of what you're saying, oh, it's just going to the outfield. Who cares? Like, well, the guys I'm competing with have been playing for the outfield for, 25 years or 26, whatever, their whole life. And it's like, these guys are the best of the best. And I'm going out here for, my first month in the big leagues. And not only am I nervous as hell being in the big leagues, but, I'm learning a new position. And, in the big leagues, the guys hit the ball harder and farther, and you got to get perfect routes. And, the stakes are higher. There's 40,000 people instead of 10, 5. So, there's so much that goes into it. And not to mention we're in Chicago where, it's the Windy City. So, it's just a recipe for a lot of fun when you, when you get to the big leagues. But, it was the way to get to the big leagues and stay in the big leagues. So, I embraced it. I've had my ups and downs out there, but embraced it and tried to be the best outfielder that I could be.
Yeah, one thing that people have brought up is just like I'll never understand. It's just like the backdrops and the way the ball comes off the bat. It's different, obviously, in every stadium, but like I guess at home it's a little easier because you kind of know like how the ball will be coming at you. But like on the road and like as like a not full time outfielder, was that the hardest part? Like going on the road and you're like there's lights and there's like fifth decks and like I imagine that had to be like insane trying to navigate that.
Yeah, it's crazy because you think about football or basketball. I mean, no matter where you go, the dimensions are the same on the court, on the field. It's 100 yards, it's 50 yards wide, whatever it is. So it's like what you're going to get every time. But every stadium you go to, you got Fenway with the pesky pole and the low wall, and then juts out, and you got Kansas City with a huge field, and Baltimore with the short walls and the high wall. So it's like every 3 days you're finding something completely new. You're learning how to play off the wall. You're learning how the ball flies there. You're learning the different wind patterns. So yeah, there's a lot that goes into it that I didn't even realize before I got there. And like Chicago in day games, the way the sun glares off the seats, it's almost impossible to see the ball off the bat. So you got to, learn to pick it up, 20 feet off the bat instead of right off the bat. And so it's a lot of stuff that, I never knew that went into it, but it obviously is a huge part of it.
Ooh, here's something. I don't think I've ever asked anybody this. Sometimes I'll be watching games like during the day, and outfielders will have sunglasses, but they won't have them on. They'll have them on their hat, and then they'll just like misplay a ball. And it's like, wow, it would have been nice if you had sunglasses. What do you play with sunglasses during the day, and why don't everybody? Why is
I do, but some days the sunglasses make it worse, depending on the glare. Some days the sunglasses get filled up with sun, whereas if you take them off, there's just like a little beam of sun in your eyes. So yeah, it's crazy. You see that a lot. You see some guys, lose it in the sun or whatnot without their sunglasses on, or they're on their hat. And it really is because it's easier to see without the sunglasses on. I mean, some days there's so much sun that your whole glasses get filled up and there's just a huge glare, or like when there's shadows, it's just, yeah, some days that you just take them off because you're like, I don't have a great chance either way, but this way seems to be the best right now.
Okay, that's fascinating. I've never thought of it like that, but I guess you're right. Yeah, but like, I don't know. That always just makes me mad. Where he's just like, ball goes off his face or something. And it's like, damn, man, if only had something to like block some of that sun out, right?
Yeah, you would think, but no, it's crazy how that works. Just some days a lot of times when the ball gets in the middle of the sun, it doesn't matter what you have. It's a helpless feeling. The ball's gone, and you just hope it comes back before it hits you in the face.
Yeah, it's always unfortunate whenever you see a ball just go off somebody's dome. Is there like a piece of advice that like a coach gave you or an outfield coach gave you that like has stuck with you, or like what's some of the best things that people have told you about playing the outfield that have kind of resonated?
Biggest thing was if you're gonna mess up, 100%. Just go for it. It's don't play timid. Don't be 50-50. When you make a read, go for it. Be 100% on that read. And that's when I feel like I started to play a better outfield. It was when I was 50-50. Like, it was too much of don't mess up, don't mess up, don't mess up. And then next thing you know, you're making delayed reads. You're not making good jumps. And so the biggest thing was, hey, if you're gonna mess up 100%. Like if you're gonna come in on a ball because you think that's the right read, come in. Like you can figure it out. You come in, you can get back, whatever. But, don't be 50-50 and not be able to get to the ball in or back. And so that was the biggest thing. It kind of freed me up a little bit. It was like, all right, you know what? Like, just go for it. Go with your instinct, put in the work, put in the extra work. And when you get in the game, just go for it. If you think it's going to be it, if you think the ball's jammed or whatever, come in. And so that kind of freed me up a little bit. But, it was just nice to be like, all right, this is kind of the free reins to go for it. And so that helped a lot.
Yeah, I like that. That's great advice. I had another kind of like, I don't know, kind of dumb question. I was going back and I was watching some of your old like highlights and your clips, and it's, correct me if I'm wrong, but I think you used to have a one-handed finish on your swing, or you used to have a two-handed finish. Now you had a one-handed finish. Is there a difference between the two, or does it really not do anything?
I think it depends on the pitch. Depends on how you're feeling in that given week. Like I prefer to have two hands for the most part. I think that sometimes you need the extension of a one-hand finish, or you see a lot of breaking balls or change-ups that you catch out front that you have to ride with one hand going all out. Yeah, so that's a big thing of it. I don't think one's better than the other, but I think that the pitch and the sequence and all that stuff will kind of decide how you need to finish to have the best outcome.
Okay. I've never actually known that. That's great. Because you think of some guys that are like Mike Trout, always two hands. And then you think other guys where it's like, you got the Ken Griffey, you're kind of pimping it a little bit. You drop the bat with one. It's like,
Sure.
I've never actually known if there was a reason why people did that.
Yeah, no, those guys are two pretty good players, and they had different finishes. So, yeah, I don't think one's better than the other. I think some guys will swear by one, swear by the other, but no, I think that if you need to, sometimes you need that extra extension, so you go out one-handed if you're full a little bit, but you can still homer on that. So, yeah.
How long did it take you to are you constantly tweaking your swing, or do you have like one set one that it's been your tried and true for so long?
Yeah, that's a loaded question. The ideal answer is, yeah, I've got one swing and I stick with it day in and day out. But no, I think I fell into a little bit this year that I was tinkering too much, and I think that was that's a tough place to be. I think that when you get back to, that's what I've been focused on this off season, is getting back to just one swing. That you can just trust at all times. And then good, the bad times, that one swing works. And I think the less tinkering, the better. And so that's something I've worked on a lot this offseason, to try to get something that I'm fully 100% bought into, the confidence behind it. I think when guys are going really well, they would say, yeah, I got one swing, and, good, bad, or indifferent. It's what I go with. And I think when guys are struggling, they say, yeah, I'm still looking for that one swing. So, that's the way of the game. It's the way baseball works. Unfortunately, it's the mental side that just drives you nuts. But it's what we love about it. So, yeah, I think that trying to get back to just that one swing that you're fully confident with.
I feel like in the off season too, I see a lot of guys. They go to these high tech facilities. You have all the little patches, and you have the slow motion cameras. Are you somebody that is that something you work on in the off season, where it's you have all the analytics, the data, the numbers, and you're trying to examine every little part of your game? Is that what's going on in the
A little
off-season?
bit. I've dove into it a little bit more this off season, trying to get where the numbers can back what you feel, because I think that's important when you get into the season. You're like, well, I know that this works. Getting back to that one swing, it's like, numbers say that this one's the best one. Numbers say that this works and it feels the best. So, to kind of match up the two things, I think there's a give and take with it. I think there's a line that you shouldn't cross in terms of becoming too analytic or becoming, too old school. And so I think that we've got too much data, too much, numbers nowadays to help you, that it's kind of crazy to not dive into it. But, I've also seen guys that dive into it way too much and forget even how mechanics or how their body works, because they're just so many numbers are flying through their head. So, at the end of the day, you're competing against the pitcher, and it's a full-on competition. So, whatever gets you right, through batting practice, but once you get in that game, it's just a full-on chess match with the pitcher. And, I think that's at the end of the day what you have to remember.
Are you an iPad in between at bats guy, or you just go up there, or you're just more of a based off feel?
Yeah, I've become more of an iPad guy, just to see sequences and where the locations were, and was the catcher actually set up in when the pitch was in, or was he set up away and the guy missed? Because I think that's a big part of it too. But we didn't have that in the minor leagues, so I didn't come up using that. So there are some times where I probably need to put the iPad away a little bit more and just go in there and compete, like I said, because there's so much data and numbers and everything in baseball nowadays that you have to be able to kind of give and take what you actually need versus what is just too much.
Oh yeah. No, I would be I would just be in the iPad. I would be looking at all the weird numbers and stats and just completely forgot how I got to the big leagues in the first place. Just
exactly.
I feel like that's probably so easy for guys to do, where it's just all right, well, I have to go, not going to sleep tonight, just going to go look at the iPad. And it's
Right.
just that's probably not conducive to being successful.
Right. You never had it until you got to the big leagues. So it's all new information to you. It's all this stuff. And you're like, man, I don't even know how I did this. I don't even know how I got here without this stuff. So
Yeah.
You definitely need to remember how you got there and what you did before getting to the big leagues. The last thing you want to do is change up everything when you get there.
Yeah. I had a question about the offseason. How locked in are you with around baseball, not just White Sox news, but just news in general? Are you somebody that has MLB Network on, or are you trying to tune it out and just trying to focus on your stuff?
I don't have MLB. I can say that. I better chance of having Golf Channel on than MLB Network. But yeah, I think that I pay attention to some things that happen, moves that happen. I don't go full, dark mode from baseball. But I think there's a lot of noise and a lot of media and I try to stay out of all that. I try to stay out of the negative news, the Twitter, all that stuff. I go about my business, get ready for the next season, and go out and get focused on what I want to accomplish. And I think, and I know guys that are obsessed with it, want to see everything, want to have MLB Network running all day, especially through winter meetings and all that stuff. Which I don't knock it. Check Twitter every day for what's going on, but that's not for me. There's too much negativity going around in that I don't need to fill my mind with that stuff. So I go about my business, get ready to go for the season, and get ready to tack on another season.
That's like a healthy, like positive, upbeat. Yeah, you're right. Because if you just live on Twitter right now, you're just refreshing, and you're like, you have beat reporters with like incorrect reports, and you have my sources are telling me this guy is headed here when he's actually not going. It's a wild time.
Ohtani should be in Toronto right now if all that stuff was true. I mean, it's
Yes.
There's too much stuff. Everybody wants to be the first one to report things. There's too many people that have voices on there that are trashing players, and I'm not here for it. Unless you're on the field going about it with everybody else and grinding with all other guys, it's too hard of a sport to step behind Twitter keys and write whatever you want.
I think you got that down pat. Although Shohei Ohtani, what was your reaction when you heard 700?
It was, that's a number that I can't even fathom. But if anybody's going to get it, it's going to be that guy. I mean, he's a top 5 hitter and he's a top 5 pitcher, and so he's getting paid for it. And not to mention the market that he brings and the money that he'll bring in for the Dodgers. I mean, they'll make it back within. I don't want to put it. I imagine 4 or 5 years they'll make that money back just with his name and having the Japanese market and all that stuff that comes with it. I mean, he's an unbelievable player, unbelievable talent, but to have Betts, Freeman, and Ohtani in the same lineup and it's not an all-star game, that's tough. And they just added Glass now right on top of it. So they are loading up. I'm happy they're in the NL.
What's it like playing Ohtani? Because I imagine Angels, White Sox played a ton. Like what's it like playing against Shohei?
It's special. Against us, he went 7 or 8 innings, hit 2 home runs in the same game, and it's just like, you're on the field with it, and you just kind of take it in. It's like this is not normal, and it's kind of frustrating too. It's like, man, this guy is a top 5 player at pitching and hitting at the same time. He just hit 2 home runs and he struck me out in the same game. What this guy's got to pick one. I mean, this is ridiculous. But you just understand what you're witnessing, and it's something that hasn't been done since Babe Ruth, and he's doing it at a level that is incredible to watch.
No doubt. Yeah, it really is special to watch. It's primetime TV every time he's up. Okay, I said a couple last fun kind of rapid fire-ish questions for you. Thank you so much for your time, by the way, Gavin.
Yeah, absolutely.
I don't know if I saw it on your Instagram or your Twitter, but like, do you have a Sheets sponsorship or do you have like a brand deal with?
Yeah, Sheets and Giggles. Actually, when I got my new house, they set us up with all of our stuff for our mattresses and we're ready to rock. So can't beat them. Their stuff's awesome. But yeah, it was a pretty funny partnership that we put together, and we've had a lot of fun with that.
I mean, it goes hand in hand. My question though is, how often do you wash your sheets?
You have to ask my wife. I stay away from that. I'd like to say, I don't even know. I don't even want to throw out a number because, it could be less or it could be more. And but no, she's on top of that. Thank goodness. Because if I was doing it, it would be a bad answer.
Might lose the Sheets sponsorship if it doesn't go well.
Seriously.
Was there a time in college where it was like, were you pushing a month? Like what? Because no dude in college washes their sheets. Like that's just not what we do. But like, was it bad at one point?
For sure, especially in season. You're just traveling. You're all this stuff. You're just locked into everything, but doing laundry, and so, Yeah, honestly, it was probably my wife that did it in college for me too. My junior, we were dating in college, so um, she probably was the one to answer that one too.
Hey, shout out your wife. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. She holds it down for me.
Yeah, yeah, that's so funny. The White Sox, they have one of my favorite City Connect uniforms. I think it's one of the best in baseball. I'm wondering where it ranks for you, and have you seen any other like City Connect or like alternate uniforms? You're like, damn, that's cool.
I think it's the best personally, especially when it first came out. Obviously there's a lot more that are out now, but when it first came out, and still, I think it's the best. I really like San Diego's is cool. Throws in that kind of the San Diego beach vibe. It's got all the colors rocking, and anytime Machado and Tatis and those guys can throw on some cool cleats, they're always on top of it. So yeah, those are cool as well. But I love our Southside jerseys. I think they were awesome. I thought they were a great thing, and it's something that playing for the White Sox we embrace is the South Side. It's the North Side's the Cub, and we're the South Side. It's just a different vibe. It's and I think our jerseys are awesome for that.
They're so cool. Yeah, with the matching pants too. That's such a cool look.
Yeah.
Throughout your big league career, what is your most memorable at bat?
Probably the playoffs, home run in the playoffs. Just getting to the playoffs my rookie year and being a part of that and seeing that atmosphere and bringing it to the fan base that hadn't had it in a couple of years. That was, that there wasn't a fan base that I thought was louder in the playoffs that I played at any time. And even we got some guys from the Astros came over. Kendall Graveman came over and they played in the World Series that year, and they said no place was louder than Chicago. So that was incredible. Obviously, first at bat back in Camden Yards, and some of those were special. But playoffs is just it's a different beast. It's a different atmosphere. It's a different feeling. I remember just getting back after those games, just being mentally exhausted because you're just in every pitch, every moment. You don't know what is going to be the game changer, and so that was pretty awesome being a part of that.
I love that. All right, a couple last ones. Have you ever been starstruck, or maybe that's a bad word? Just like maybe you met somebody that you always looked up to, and you're like, this is awesome.
Yeah, Pujols. Meeting Pujols. I wasn't even in the big leagues yet. I was in spring training. I was playing first base, and he got to first base, and it was, one of my first big league spring training starts ever was Trout, Ohtani, Pujols, and it's like, what's going on here? So yeah, when he got to first, that was pretty special. I think that people forget how special a talent he was. In his first 10 years. I mean, he was unbelievable. If you look at his numbers and break him down with any of these guys nowadays, it's incredible.
I love that. The White Sox announcer, Jason Benetti, everybody that I've known that like has met Jason Benetti has nothing but kind things to say about him. They said he's like one of the nicest people ever. I'm wondering like what your interactions with him have been like, and like what can you like tell me about what it's like to hang out with Jason Benetti?
One of my favorite guys ever. First off, I think he's one of the best in baseball, if not the best. He's fantastic. He's an unbelievable human. I think he's a fair commentator. And it was really tough to see him go because usually you don't interact with media and commentators and that stuff, but when Jason came in the clubhouse, I mean, everybody wanted to talk college football with him because he obviously does Fox on college and basketball, and just an unbelievable guy. And I would say, one of the guys that players truly respected and wanted to be around.
I love that. Yeah, his Fox college football stuff is just like he's just got like a great voice. I don't know. There's just something about turning on a game and it's like, hi, I'm Jason Benetti. It's like, damn, this could be a good game.
Yep, no doubt.
It's the best. Okay, last question. I always like to end with this one. Out of every, like, could be life, baseball, whatever, like, what's the best piece of advice you've ever received?
Probably when my dad said, just never change who you are. No matter where you got to the big leagues, don't change the person you are. Don't change who you are. Don't change, anything about you. Don't let the situation change the person you are. And I think that was the biggest thing. Obviously when you get to the big leagues, everything changes. Your lifestyle changes, your your platform changes, everything changes, but you can't change as a person. And so I think that was the biggest thing, and something that I hold true to this day, 3 years in.
I love that. Dude, this has been incredible. Thank you so much for coming on and giving me an hour of your time during the off season. It really means a lot. We're a Gavin Sheets podcast now, so
I appreciate that.
we'll be rooting for you in the Shy Sox there. But yeah, best of luck this upcoming season, and thanks again.
Thank you. Anytime. I appreciate it.